The church bells rang like a death knell. Rain pelted the stone steps of the old mountain chapel, turning the petals from the flower girls' baskets into mush beneath the guests' heels. The scent of wet pine hung heavy in the air, as if the forest itself was mourning what was about to happen. Emma clutched the sides of the wooden pew, her knuckles white. Her heart wasn't just breaking, it was fracturing in places no one would ever see. On the altar stood the man she'd seen every night in her dreams, the one whose voice haunted her soul like a song half remembered, Alpha Lucian Blackthorn, and he wasn't waiting for her. He was marrying her sister. Emma's breath hitched as the music swelled. She stood frozen as everyone rose to greet the bride. Her sister, Delilah, glided down the aisle like she'd been born for the spotlight, elegant, golden, flawless. But none of that mattered, because the moment Lucian's eyes met Emma's, everything stopped. The crowd blurred, the music dimmed, and Emma felt it. The bond.it flared like lightning beneath her skin, a sudden, aching heat. Her soul surged forward like it recognized him, like it had been waiting for this exact moment. Lucian's jaw clenched. His golden eyes widened, barely a flicker in his expression. But Emma felt it. He felt it too, the connection, the pull. And then, as if yanked back into reality, he turned his gaze away. Delilah reached him, smiling like she'd just won a war. The priest began to speak. Emma's heart shattered in silence. 3 hours later, Emma stood at the edge of the forest, soaked to the bone, heels discarded in the mud. The reception roared. Behind her, laughter, toasts, music. But she couldn't breathe in that room. Not with Lucian pretending she didn't exist. Not with her soul screaming that he was hers. Thunder cracked overhead. Emma? She turned. It was Lucian's beta, Cade, tall, broad, watchful. You shouldn't be out here, he said, stepping toward her. Not alone. The woods aren't safe on a night like this. Emma raised her chin. I can handle myself. Cade hesitated. It's not you I'm worried about. He handed her a jacket, Lucian's. She realized by the scent and turned to leave, but paused. He didn't know, Cade said quietly, until today, when he saw you. Emma blinked. What? The bond. It's real. Her stomach twisted. Then why he made a vow, Cade cut in. One he can't break without risking the entire alliance between your coven and our pack. Emma's head spun. There's a coven? But Cade was already walking away, fading into the trees like mist. That night, she dreamed of wolves, of a clearing bathed in moonlight, of Lucian shifting, his fur as black as the storm clouds, eyes glowing like fire. She stood across from him, her human form bare, vulnerable. But he didn't attack. He bowed. The wind whispered, true mate, true mate, true mate. Emma woke gasping, and when she looked out her window, she swore she saw him standing beneath the trees, watching her with a hunger and sorrow so deep, it nearly stopped her heart. Then he was gone. The next morning, everything changed. Emma packed her bags. I'm leaving, she told her mother, ignoring Delilah's smug smile from the breakfast table. This place, it's not mine anymore. Delilah lifted her coffee. Probably for the best. You've always been a little too sensitive. Emma wanted to scream, but she just walked out. She drove for hours, leaving the town, the pack, the wedding, all of it behind. She didn't stop until the trees grew thicker, the sky darker, the road more winding. She didn't know where she was going, only that she needed to be anywhere else. But fate wasn't done with her, because just as the sun dipped below the horizon, her car stalled, dead on the side of an empty mountain road. No cell service, no lights, just the woods, and then, a low growl from the trees. Emma stepped out, heart pounding. Hello. The growl deepened, closer, and then a shape massive, black, and wild emerged. A wolf. Her breath hitched. Lucian? The wolf froze. Their eyes met, and everything inside her ignited. The bond flared, stronger, clearer. She knew him. Every inch, every breath. He shifted. Right there, beneath the moonlight, bones snapping, fur dissolving into skin. A man stood where the wolf had been, tall, strong, marked by scars and guilt. Lucian, naked, vulnerable, angry. You shouldn't have left, he said, tears welled in her eyes. You're married to my sister. He stepped forward. Only in name. You rejected me. I didn't know. Not until it was too late. Silence fell between them like a blade. Emma's voice trembled. So what now? Lucian's eyes burned. Now, I fight fate, or I surrender to it. He stepped closer. I tried to resist it, Emma. Tried to honor my promise, but the moon won't let me forget. You're in my head, in my soul, every time I close my eyes, you're there. She backed away, shaking. Don't say this unless you mean it. Lucian reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. The storm rolled in faster than Emma expected. She'd barely made it a mile down the twisting mountain road after Lucian had vanished back into the forest, his last words burning in her chest. Now I fight fate, or I surrender to it. Before the wind picked up, bending the pines like they were made of paper. By the time she spotted the old ranger's cabin nestled between two slopes, the rain had turned to sleet and her windshield was fogged with tension and frost. She pulled over, cursing her stubborn heart for leading her into this mess. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the cabin key hanging under the dashboard, something her aunt had left her years ago with a simple note, in case the woods ever call you back. She hadn't realized until now how literal that calling might be. The cabin was dark but solid, built from black timber and river rock. A single oil lantern flickered near the hearth, where dry logs were stacked neatly inside. Someone had been here recently. She hesitated on the threshold, then pushed the door open. The scent hit her first: pine, smoke, and something earthy. Familiar. Lucian. She wasn't alone. In the shadows by the fire, Lucian stood, shirtless, his back to her. His muscles flexed as he knelt to adjust the flame. Steam rose from his bare skin where snowflakes melted, and she could see faint scratches down his arms. Fresh, wild, beautiful. Emma stepped in carefully, letting the door close behind her with a soft thud. You're here. Lucian didn't turn. The storm forced me off trail. I took shelter. I didn't know you'd be right, she said, voice tight. Because fate just conveniently throws us into the same places over and over again. Silence fell like snow between them. Lucian finally turned, his amber eyes locked with hers, the firelight catching the gold like liquid metal. You don't believe in fate? I don't know what I believe anymore, Emma whispered. Only that I feel like I'm being pulled towards something I never asked for, something I can't escape. Lucian moved closer slowly, like a predator unsure if the prey would run or stay. Neither can I. She flinched at how raw his voice was, like gravel and regret. You chose her, Emma said, arms folded tightly. You stood there and said vows to my sister while your soul was screaming for you, he interrupted. I know. Then why didn't you stop it? Her voice cracked. Why didn't you say anything? Lucian stared at the fire for a long time before answering. Because I thought I could control it. The bond. I thought it was a mistake, a cruel joke the moon played. Until I saw your eyes. Emma swallowed hard. You can't fix this, Lucian. You're married to my sister. Delilah's not like you, he said softly. No, she's perfect, beautiful, ambitious, everything I'm not. Lucian's gaze sharpened. Don't ever say that again. Emma laughed bitterly, moving toward the window. You think saying that changes anything? The bond doesn't erase the lies, the betrayal. He stepped closer. What if I told you it wasn't a lie? What? Lucian hesitated. Delilah's not fully human. Neither are you. Emma blinked. What the hell are you talking about? He looked away, jaw tight. There's magic in your bloodline. Old, buried magic. Your aunt knew. Your grandmother too. That's why the bond recognized you so quickly. You're not just my mate, Emma. You're a moonborn. Her knees buckled, and she gripped the windowsill. This is insane. It's real, Lucian said. And the reason I married your sister wasn't love, it was duty. The elders made a deal with your coven long ago to preserve peace between witches and wolves, a symbolic union. But the blood chose wrong. Emma shook her head. So I'm just some magical insurance policy? A mistake? No, Lucian growled. You're the only thing that's ever felt real to me. The wind howled outside, rattling the shutters. Thunder cracked. Emma paced, heart pounding. So what now? You leave her? Break the pact? Start a war? Lucian stepped closer. I protect you. Whatever it takes. She stared at him, searching his face. For the first time, she saw the wear behind his eyes, the torment. This wasn't just about forbidden love. It was about survival, loyalty, legacy. And still, her heart pulled toward him. You hurt me, she whispered. I know. You let me believe I was nothing. Again, Lucian's voice broke. Because if I gave in, if I even looked at you the way I wanted to, they would have killed you. Emma froze. What? There are rules, he said quietly, and enemies watching. You being my true mate threatens everything. If they knew what you are. He didn't finish. She stepped back, So I'm in danger. You always were. Lucian crossed the room in a blur, faster than human. His hands cupped her face before she could stop him. I can't run from this anymore, he said. I won't. His forehead touched hers, breath warm on her lips, but he didn't kiss her. He let her decide. Emma stood there, trembling. Every instinct screamed to run, but her soul leaned forward and kissed him. It was fire. Their mouths met like thunder, desperate and aching, years of denial and pain pouring out. His hands wrapped around her waist, lifting her off the floor. She clung to him like he was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. When they finally broke apart, breathless, she whispered, "This changes everything." I hope so, Lucian said, brushing his lips over her forehead. Because I'm not letting go again. The storm raged through the night, but the fire inside the cabin never died. Later, as they lay together on the rug in front of the hearth, bodies tangled, skin bare and honest, Emma turned to him. What happens when Delilah finds out? Lucian was quiet for a long time. Then, she already knows. Emma couldn't sleep, even with the fire burning low in the hearth and Lucian's steady breath warming the back of her neck. Her mind churned with questions. Delilah knows. The words rang in her skull like a warning bell. She turned her head slightly to look at him, his face soft in slumber, the usual sharpness of his jawline relaxed. For a man who commanded fear from entire packs, he looked almost vulnerable like this. Human. But he wasn't, and apparently neither was she. Emma sat up slowly, wrapping the thick blanket around her as she slipped from the rug to the wooden floorboards. The cabin creaked beneath her as she padded to the small window overlooking the trees. The storm had passed, leaving the forest soaked and silent, cloaked in icy fog. She touched the glass, a moonborn, a witch blood, a true mate. None of it made sense. Her childhood had been so ordinary: school, scraped knees, a distant mother, and an aunt who kept jars of salt by every window. She remembered the spells her aunt whispered under her breath, chalk circles, and stories about how bloodlines never truly died, but Emma had never seen proof. Not until Lucian had spoken those impossible words, not until the pull between them had nearly torn her open. A twig snapped outside. Emma jerked, heart racing. She squinted into the mist, eyes catching a glow just beyond the trees. Amber. She froze. It wasn't Lucian's glow. His werewolf form's eyes were golden, yes, but softer, sad. This was different. Fierce, piercing, predatory. Another pair of eyes joined the first. Then a third. Something was out there, watching. She turned sharply. Lucian, but the cabin was empty. The rug where they'd slept was rumpled, the fire now only embers. His clothes were gone. The door stood slightly ajar, the snow disturbed by large paw prints. He had shifted. Again, Emma stepped outside, boots crunching into the crusted snow. She pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders, her breath fogging in the bitter air. Lucian? She called softly. No answer. The forest loomed ahead, and the glowing eyes were gone. But something remained in their place: attention, a pressure, like being underwater. She took a hesitant step forward, and that's when she heard it. A howl. Not Lucian's, high-pitched, desperate. Then another, deeper, guttural, a warning. And then silence. Emma's blood turned to ice. She shouldn't follow it, but she couldn't turn away. She followed the trail through the trees, winding between thick pines and across frozen ground, her feet moving on instinct. Her skin prickled with something electric, a pulse beneath the air. After several minutes, she reached a clearing and stopped dead. Lucian stood in the center, naked and breathing heavily, chest marked with fresh scratches. His knuckles were torn open, blood dripping into the snow. Around him lay the bodies of two wolves, not his pack. Their fur was darker, almost black, their muzzles still twisted in snarls. He looked up, startled. Emma, what are you doing out here? What happened? Her voice cracked. They were rogues, Lucian said grimly. Scouts, sent by someone who knows what we are. Her throat tightened. You mean someone who knows I'm your mate? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Lucian wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, turning from her. It's starting sooner than I thought. What is? He exhaled. The test, the challenge, the moment when fate stops waiting for us to decide and makes the choice for us. Later, back in the cabin, Emma sat by the fire, her fingers tight around a cup of tea. Her hands still trembled. What did you mean when you said Delilah already knows? She asked finally. Lucian didn't look up. She felt it. The night we met, Emma's heart thudded. What? He nodded. Shifters can sense mates immediately. It's in our blood. But witches, they feel it differently. They see it in dreams, in omens. And she saw me? Yes. Emma's mind reeled. So she married you anyway? Lucian's eyes hardened. She claimed it was to protect you. That if she stepped aside, the others would notice the bond and destroy you before it fully formed. But I think she just didn't want to give up the power. Emma swallowed hard. She's dangerous. She's conflicted, Lucian said carefully. But yes, she's more like your mother than you realize. Emma blinked. You knew my mother? He hesitated. Not personally, but I've heard stories. She was powerful, secretive. She fled the coven to protect you after your father died. Delilah stayed. She trained. With the witches? Lucian nodded. And with the wolves? Emma stared into the fire. So she always had a plan. She was always preparing for this moment, Lucian said. The blood moon rises in 3 days. On that night, the bond between true mates becomes irreversible. What happens if we don't accept it? We both suffer, Lucian said, softly. Pain, madness, isolation. The soul bond turns inward. Emma's voice was a whisper. And if we do? He looked at her, firelight flickering in his eyes. Then we become something stronger than either bloodline alone. But that power, it terrifies both our worlds. Emma stood, her chest tight. Everything in her life had led to this moment. The betrayal that brought her to Pine Hollow, the whispers in her blood, the impossible pull toward a man who belonged to someone else, her sister. She looked at Lucian. You need to tell me everything. No more half-truths. No more protection through silence. He rose slowly, crossing to her. There's a prophecy, he said. An old one, written in moonstone and ash. It speaks of a child born from both, the wolf and the witch, who would bridge the two realms and end the blood wars. Emma's breath caught. Lucian nodded. Your aunt believed it was you, that your magic would only awaken when your mate found you. She stared at him. And you think it's true? I think it already is, Lucian said, reaching for her hand. The moment he touched her, a shock of warmth surged up her arm, light pulsing beneath her skin. She gasped. Lucian's voice was reverent. It's starting. Suddenly, the fire roared higher, the flames twisting unnaturally. A gust of wind slammed the shutters. Emma turned in shock as the room filled with a strange scent, lavender and smoke. A voice echoed in her ears. You were never meant to survive this, sister. Emma spun. Delilah stood in the doorway, her dark hair whipped around her face, her eyes glowing violet, her hands crackling with energy. Behind her stood 2 hooded figures, witches. Lucian growled low in his throat, stepping in front of Emma. Don't. Delilah tilted her head. Too late. Emma stepped forward. What are you doing? Delilah's face twisted. Ending what never should have begun. Emma had never seen her sister look like that before. Delilah had always been composed, silken voice, smooth movements, always 10 steps ahead. But now, she stood in the doorway of the cabin like a goddess of vengeance, violet magic blazing from her palms and stormlight crowning her silhouette. I told you not to follow your heart, Delilah said coldly. Now look what it's cost. Lucian stood in front of Emma, muscles tense, his own power radiating like heat off his skin. She didn't ask for this. Neither of us did. Delilah laughed bitterly. Don't lie. You both knew exactly what would happen the second you touched. Emma stepped around Lucian. Delilah, what are you doing? You're my sister. That's exactly why I'm here, Delilah hissed. To stop you before you destroy everything. You don't understand what you are, Emma. What that connection means. I'm learning, Emma said. And I need you to tell me the truth. Why hide it from me? Why lie for so long? Delilah's expression flickered. Behind her, the 2 witches stayed silent, their faces hidden beneath dark hoods. One held a wand carved from bone. The other held a silver dagger, pulsing faintly with enchanted runes. Because you weren't supposed to survive, Delilah whispered. The coven marked you. You were the anomaly. The prophecy warned us about the child who would unify bloodlines and break the ancient wards. You were always the threat. Emma's heart thudded. So you let me be raised outside the coven? Away from magic? I convinced them to spare you, Delilah said, voice cracking slightly. If I married Lucian, if I took your place, they believed the bond would fade. But it didn't. Emma stared. You stole my fate to save me. Or to keep the power for yourself? Delilah didn't answer, but the silence was answer enough. A sudden flash of light erupted between them. Lucian stepped forward, Hands up, this ends now, he growled. If you cross that threshold with violence, Delilah, I'll consider it a declaration of war. War? Delilah smirked. You think you can protect her from all of us? I already did, he said, voice low. And I will again. Emma raised her hand, pulse racing. No, this is between her and me. Lucian turned. Emma, she's my sister, and I deserve to hear it straight. Delilah's shoulders dropped. An inch, the crackle of magic at her fingertips dimming. You want the truth? She asked. Fine. Delilah stepped into the room slowly, like a predator circling its prey. You were born under the cursed moon, she said. The same night our mother died giving birth to you. That wasn't an accident. She tried to bind your soul, to mask your true nature, but it didn't hold. The night you turned 10, a raven dropped dead outside your window. Do you remember? Emma nodded slowly, chills dancing across her skin. That was the first sign, Delilah continued. The spell was breaking. You were too powerful. So you erased my memory? Delilah nodded. With the help of the elder witches. They said if you never awakened, the curse wouldn't reach its full power. But when Lucian's pack moved north, I felt it. Lucian spoke up. You felt the mate bond. Delilah nodded, a flicker of pain behind her eyes. I knew it wasn't for me, not truly, but I took it anyway. Emma blinked. Why? Delilah's voice dropped to a whisper. Because I couldn't bear to be second again. I couldn't be the weak one. You always had the power, Emma, you just never knew it. Something in Emma cracked open. She wasn't the spare. She wasn't the forgotten child or the ordinary one. She had been hidden, veiled in false memories and mundane lies, not because she lacked power, but because she had too much. I never wanted this, Emma said. Any of it. I didn't choose to be born cursed or blessed. I just want to live, to love, without being a weapon for someone else's prophecy. Delilah's expression faltered. For the first time in years, Emma saw her sister, not the witch, not the rival, but the scared little girl who had grown up in the shadows of a dying mother, in the hollow halls of an ancient coven. The girl who had loved Emma fiercely, even as she was told to fear her. Delilah's mouth opened to respond, but a howl pierced the night. Not a warning, a call. Lucian spun. They found us. Emma's heart dropped. The coven? No, he said grimly. The rogues, the ones who want the prophecy fulfilled by blood. Delilah's face turned pale. You led them here? No, Emma whispered. They were already coming. Within seconds, the cabin's windows shuttered. Shadows moved between the trees, too large, too fast to be human. Lucian growled. Get behind me. The two witches with Delilah drew their weapons. The air thickened, and the wood groaned under unseen pressure. Then came the first attack. A massive black wolf burst through the back wall of the cabin, eyes red, teeth bared. Lucian shifted midair, claws ripping into the rogue's shoulder as they tumbled outside into the snow. Emma ducked as another figure leapt through the window, part wolf, part man, with twisted limbs and a foaming mouth. Delilah raised both hands. Ventara. A blast of purple fire knocked the creature into the wall, searing its flesh. Emma stared. You're helping us? Delilah gritted her teeth. Don't get used to it. The battle exploded around them. Wolves clashed with magic, snow churned into mud, and the night sky flashed with spells and snarls. Emma crouched behind a broken table, watching Lucian tear through the rogues like a beast unleashed. Every movement he made was calculated, brutal, protective. He wasn't just fighting for his life, he was fighting for hers. But then a scream. Emma turned just in time to see a rogue leap toward her. She raised her arms instinctively, and something inside her surged. Light, blinding, golden, wild. The blast threw the rogue across the room and into a tree, where it fell motionless. Emma gasped, her entire body vibrating with power. Delilah's voice rang out behind her. You've awakened. When the dust settled, only silence remained. The cabin was half collapsed. The trees were scorched. Blood and fur stained the snow. Lucian limped toward her, his shoulder torn, eyes flickering back to human. You okay? He rasped. Emma nodded. Shakily. I think so. You? I've had worse. She reached for him, pressing her hand to his wound. Let me try. Light danced at her fingertips against soft, healing. The wound began to close. Lucian stared in awe. You're not just a witch. No, Delilah said softly. She's something else now. Emma looked up at her sister. So what happens next? Delilah glanced around at the destruction. The bond between you is real. That much is clear. And the prophecy. It's in motion. Lucian growled low. We won't let them take her. Delilah met Emma's gaze. Then you both need to leave. Go deeper into the mountains. Find the hollow stone. It's the only place your bond can be fully protected until the blood moon rises. Emma frowned. You're helping us? Delilah looked away. Let's just say, I'm tired of being the villain. As dawn broke, Emma stood outside the wreckage of the cabin, wind tugging at her hair. Lucian wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. You were incredible tonight. I didn't even know what I was doing. You didn't need to, he said. It was in you all along. Emma turned to him. Why did you reject the bond, Lucian? That first night. Why push me away? He hesitated, his jaw tightening. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what loving you would cost. And because I'd already hurt you once by choosing her. Emma's eyes filled. But you didn't choose her. You were trying to protect me. He nodded slowly. I loved you before I even knew your name. That night in the woods when I saw you through the trees, I knew you were mine. But the curse, the prophecy, I didn't want to drag you into my darkness. You didn't drag me, she said. I walked in, eyes open. He smiled faintly. Then let's keep walking. Together. She nodded, voice quiet. Together. The forest changed once they crossed the river. What had once been snow-laden trees and wide mountain trails became a twisted maze of ancient pines and shadow-choked paths. The air grew colder, thicker, almost enchanted, like the woods themselves were watching. Emma pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders and stepped carefully between the roots. Lucian walked ahead, his senses sharp, head tilting every few steps as he sniffed the air or listened to the rustling underbrush. How much farther? She asked, her breath a thin vapor in the frigid air. Half a day, Lucian said. Maybe less, if we don't run into trouble. She gave a weak laugh. Do we ever not run into trouble? He glanced back with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Touch. They continued in silence for a while, the only sounds their footfalls and the distant calls of unseen creatures. Above them, the sun struggled to pierce the heavy clouds, casting only a pale silver glow on the world. Emma's fingers grazed the bark of an ancient pine. Her magic hummed faintly in response, alive now, like a long slumbering beast waking slowly. I can feel the forest, she murmured. Lucian nodded. It's old magic. This is protected territory, not just by shifters or witches but something older, deeper. Like what? He hesitated. The hollow stone is said to sit at the crossroads of ley lines, places where power flows like rivers beneath the earth. It's where the first blood oath between wolves and witches was made, before everything fractured. Emma's brows furrowed. Do you think it'll accept me? Lucian stopped walking. The wind stilled. He turned to her, gaze intense. Emma, the stone doesn't accept anyone. It reveals them. It strips away the lies, the masks, the protections. If you're strong enough to withstand it, you come out changed. And if you're not, you don't come out at all. They camped just before dusk beneath a rock overhang shielded by thick cedar trees. Lucian built a fire with practiced ease, his movements quiet, efficient. Emma watched him from where she sat on a fallen log, arms around her knees. So, she said, want to talk about it? He glanced up. Talk about what? She gave him a knowing look. You've been on edge since we crossed into this forest. You're guarding something. Lucian didn't answer at first. Then he sat down across from her and rubbed his hands together near the firelight. There's a reason I didn't want to come this way, he admitted. A reason I didn't tell you everything about the stone. Emma's heart skipped. Okay, I'm listening. Lucian exhaled. When I was 17, I came here with my older brother, Garrick. He was meant to be alpha. He was powerful, fearless. The pack loved him. What happened? We were dared by the elders to reach the stone. They said it was a test of our lineage, that only true blood could survive the vision the stone would show. Garrick went in first. Emma leaned forward. And he didn't come out. Silence fell between them, heavy and unspoken. Emma whispered, I'm so sorry. Lucian nodded, jaw tight. I've blamed myself for years. I was too scared to follow. I stood at the threshold and felt the pull of the magic, but I couldn't go after him. I wasn't strong enough. You were just a kid. I was a coward. Emma shook her head. No, you survived, and you've led your pack. Since then, he met her eyes. That stone took more than just my brother. It took my belief in fate, in magic. That's why, when I felt the bond with you, I resisted it. I thought fate was cruel. Emma reached out, fingers brushing his. Maybe fate is just complicated. Like us. Lucian gave a soft laugh. Maybe. A log cracked in the fire. The wind whistled softly outside their camp. I'll go first this time, Emma said. Lucian blinked. What? When we reach the hollow stone, I'll go first. If it's going to strip me down to whatever truth is buried inside, I want to face it. I need to know who I really am. Lucian's gaze softened. You're the strongest person I've ever known, Emma. Strong people still bleed, she said. Still break. That's true. He leaned closer. But they also rebuild. That night, Emma dreamed of wolves. They circled her in a field of moonlight, some massive and wild, others skeletal and broken. A woman stood in the center, her back to Emma, long silver hair flowing like water. You carry both the gift and the curse, the woman said. Do you understand what that means? Emma stepped closer. No, but I want to. The woman turned. She had Emma's eyes but older, wiser. Then you must choose who you will become. The hollow awaits. They reached the hollow stone by late morning. It sat in the center of a natural clearing, a massive black monolith rising from the forest floor like a jagged tooth. Runes glowed faintly on its surface, shifting, ancient, alive. Lucian stood at the edge of the clearing, his hands balled into fists. This is it, he said. Emma stepped forward, the air buzzing around her skin. The moment she crossed the invisible threshold, her magic surged. Pain spiked behind her eyes like memories trying to break free. Her mother's face, Delilah's laughter, a storm, a broken mirror. She stumbled. Lucian caught her. You don't have to do this alone, he said. She looked at him. But I do. He let go. Emma stepped toward the stone. Every footfall echoed. Every breath felt like fire in her lungs. She placed her palm on the stone's surface. The world dissolved. She was falling. Through time, through blood, through lives she didn't remember living. She saw the coven kneeling around her newborn form. Saw her mother whisper a binding spell as her last breath left her lips. She saw Delilah crying in a dark room, holding Emma's toy rabbit. She saw Lucian, years younger, watching a burning village, his hands soaked in blood that wasn't his. She saw the moment their souls touched years ago, in a field beneath the full moon, before either of them knew their names. Then a voice. You are the beginning. Or the end. Emma turned. A great wolf stood before her, larger than a house, made of stars and smoke. What am I? She whispered. You are the one who must choose. Choose what? Peace or power? The wolf opened its mouth and inside was a vision of fire. Emma's eyes snapped open. Lucian was kneeling beside her, panic in his eyes. Emma, she sat up, breath ragged. I saw everything. He helped her to her feet. What did it show you? The truth, she said. I'm not just a witch. I'm a shifter too. Lucian's eyes widened. The bloodline didn't skip me, she said. My mother's spell hid my wolf, but the hollow woke her up. Lucian looked stunned. You mean? Emma took a breath and shifted. It wasn't painful. It wasn't violent. It was like remembering something long forgotten. Her limbs stretched. Her skin shimmered. Her bones cracked and reformed. In seconds, she stood before him as a sleek, golden wolf, eyes glowing. Lucian stepped back in awe. My gods, he whispered. Emma shifted back, panting slightly but smiling. That wasn't so bad. You're incredible, Lucian said. Do you know what this means? Emma nodded. I'm both witch and wolf. The bond wasn't a mistake. Lucian grinned. You're the prophecy. No, she corrected gently. We are. But peace was short-lived. A branch cracked in the trees. Lucian tensed. Someone's coming. Emma turned, power crackling around her fingers. A figure stepped into the clearing, draped in blood-red robes, face masked. He bowed mockingly. The hollow has chosen. And so have we. Behind him, dozens of eyes gleamed in the forest shadows. Rogues, witches, hybrids, the enemy. You should have stayed hidden, girl, the masked figure said. Lucian growled. Over my dead body. The figure smiled. That can be arranged. Emma stepped forward, golden light swirling around her hands. Then let's begin. The clearing pulsed with tension. Lucian's body had shifted into his wolf form, midnight black fur, eyes molten gold, muscles rippling with every snarl. Emma stood beside him in human form, arms raised, golden energy crackling at her fingertips. Her wolf soul hummed beneath the surface, ready to break free again. The red-robed figure laughed, low and cruel. Impressive. The Mutt Prince and the forgotten daughter of the coven, standing together. How poetic. Lucian snarled. You have no idea what she is. Oh, but I do, the man said, pulling down his hood. Emma inhaled sharply. It was Elias, Delilah's warlock lover. He looked older than she remembered, more feral. Veins of black magic crawled up his neck like vines. His once gentle eyes now shimmered with sickly green light. You, Emma breathed. You were banished. The coven exiled you. Because your mother feared what I knew, Elias said, voice laced with bitterness. She tried to erase me, but I survived. I thrived. And now, I'm back for what is rightfully mine. Lucian growled. If you've hurt Delilah, I saved Delilah, Elias snapped. She came to me after your pack rejected her. After Emma stole everything she loved. Emma's fists trembled. I never stole anything. She had everything, Mom's protection, the coven's favor, and even you. I didn't ask for this bond with Lucian. No, but you inherited something worse, Elias said. Something even you don't understand. He stepped forward, hand outstretched. The blood of 2 ancient lines runs through you. Witch and wolf. You are the last of the hollow-born descendants of the original pact between moon and magic. The power sleeping inside you. It could restore balance or destroy it. Lucian shifted back to human form, protective and breathless. Why? Do you care? What are you trying to do? Elias's smile turned wolfish. Because I intend to use that power. The prophecy says that if a hollowborn willingly binds herself to a bloodline marked by betrayal, Emma's heart dropped. Wait, what betrayal? Lucian stiffened. Elias turned to her, gleeful. Oh, he didn't tell you? Emma looked at Lucian, confusion turning to dread. Tell me what? Lucian's voice was hoarse. Emma, I didn't know until recently. I swear I was going to tell you. Tell me now, she demanded. Elias was all too happy to oblige. Your mother's death wasn't an accident, he said. She was betrayed by a shifter she trusted, an alpha who sold her location to a rival pack. That pack slaughtered your coven's outer circle. Your mother cast her final spell to save you. Emma's voice broke. You're lying. Lucian's gaze fell to the ground. It was my father, he said. Alpha Darius. He traded your mother's location to the Reaver pack to broker peace. He thought they'd spare her. They didn't. Emma reeled, the trees spinning around her. Her magic flickered erratically, lashing at the air. You knew, and you didn't tell me. I didn't want to lose you, Lucian whispered. I thought if I could protect you, make things right, you were the son of the man who destroyed my family. Lucian reached for her. But I'm not him. Emma backed away. But you carry his blood. Elias smirked. See, the betrayal is complete. Emma turned to him, fury in her voice. Why are you telling me this? Because the ritual only works if you know, Elias said. The hollowborn must choose to forgive or condemn. If you give me your magic willingly, I can restore balance. I can bring back the old ways, where witches ruled and wolves obeyed. Lucian stepped forward. She'll never give you anything. Elias raised his hand. The rogues emerged from the forest. Wolves mutated, twisted by dark spells. Witches with hollow eyes and bleeding palms. They surrounded the clearing, cutting off escape. Emma's pulse roared in her ears. I don't want to fight, she said. But I won't let you use me. Then you leave me no choice, Elias said. I'll take it. He lunged. Lucian shifted in a blink and collided with him midair. Emma whirled around, flinging golden fire at the advancing rogues. Magic roared through her veins, surging with righteous fury. The clearing became a battlefield. Lucian fought like a storm, black fur flashing, teeth tearing through enemies. Emma summoned roots from the earth, lashing out at witches trying to trap her in runes. Her power responded more fluidly now, as if the hollow stone had removed the final veil between her and her true self. But the enemy was overwhelming. A shadow darted past Lucian and knocked Emma to the ground. She rolled just in time to avoid a blade laced with obsidian. Elias stood over her. You could have ruled beside me, he snarled. I'd rather die as myself, Emma spat. He raised the dagger high. Then a howl split the sky. Not Lucian. A third wolf barreled into Elias, knocking him off balance. Emma blinked in disbelief. Delilah? She whispered. The wolf shifted, and there she stood, her sister, pale, shaking, eyes full of fire. I remember everything now, Delilah said. He used me, twisted my mind, made me forget who I was, who we were. Emma sat up, stunned. You came back, Delilah nodded. For you. Elias screamed in rage. Ungrateful witch. Lucian leapt onto him again, this time with Delilah joining the fray. Together, the three of them forced Elias back to the edge of the stone. His magic faltered. His spells cracked, and Emma stood tall. I don't forgive you, she said. But I release your hold. Golden light flared from her chest, searing the air. Elias screamed one final time before his body dissolved into dust. The rogues scattered. Like crows, their leader gone, silence returned to the forest. The clearing was scorched, bodies strewn across the roots and stone. Emma sank to her knees, breathing hard. Lucian approached, bloodied and limping. Emma, she looked at him, eyes tired but steady. You should have told me, she said. I know, he whispered. I don't know if I can ever look at your family the same way. You don't have to, he said. My loyalty isn't to them, it's to you. Delilah helped Emma stand. Her face was bruised, but her voice was clear. I'm so sorry. I was lost, but I'm here now. Emma touched her sister's face. We'll fix this. Together. They stood in the center of the hollow stone's power, three souls once broken, now united. A rumble echoed beneath their feet. The stone glowed bright then cracked. A beam of moonlight shot into the sky. The curse that once fractured their bloodlines was finally broken. The forest had fallen eerily silent after the battle. Morning fog draped the trees like mourning veils. Emma walked slowly behind Lucian, her steps sluggish, boots scuffing the mossy ground. Every breath she took tasted of ash and bitter magic. Delilah trailed behind, her presence quiet but steady. The hollow stone's glow had faded, leaving only scorched rock behind. The ancient force was gone, its purpose fulfilled. Now, only questions remained. Lucian hadn't spoken since the last rogue fled. His wolf form still lingered just beneath his skin, coiled and anxious. Emma could feel it in the way his shoulders stayed tense, his jaw clenched. They reached the edge of the tree line. Beyond, the silver Clawpack's territory sprawled like a wound. Lucian stopped. I have to face them, he said quietly. Emma didn't answer right away. Her heart thudded heavily, as if weighing the gravity of the moment. You think they'll reject you? I know they will. She stepped beside him. Because of me? No, because of my father. Because of what he did to your mother. Because I helped cover it up for years. The elders won't forgive that. Emma swallowed hard. Then why go back? Lucian turned to her, eyes glowing gold under the rising sun. Because I need to clean this blood off my name. I can't be Alpha. If I live a lie, if they reject me, I'll walk away. But not until I've faced them with the truth. Emma wanted to reach for him, to reassure him, but her hand froze midair. He noticed. Do you hate me? He asked. Her voice cracked. No, but part of me doesn't know how to feel. You're the man she broke off. You're the only one who's ever made me feel seen. But that truth, about your father, it broke something inside me. I understand, Lucian whispered. And if it means anything, I wish I could take it from you. But you can't. She stepped back, arms crossing. You're going to the pack. I'll go back to town with Delilah. We need time. All of us. Lucian nodded once, solemn. If you need space, I'll give it. But if I survive this meeting, if the pack doesn't exile me, I'll wait for you at the ridge. Full moon, 3 nights from now. Emma's voice caught. Why? Then, he smiled faintly. Because that's the night the moon favors soul bonds. And if you come, I'll know there's still hope. He stepped forward, brushed a kiss to her temple, and then turned toward the packlands. Emma watched him go, her heart aching with the weight of love unspoken. 2 days later, the cabin felt smaller than Emma remembered. Delilah moved quietly through the rooms, tending to bruises, folding blankets, trying to be useful. But there was a distance in her eyes, a shame that hadn't faded since Elias's death. I don't expect forgiveness, Delilah said, breaking the silence between them. Emma looked up from the table. I don't have it yet. Delilah nodded. I know, but I want to understand, Emma added softly. What he did to you, the way he twisted your thoughts. Delilah's voice trembled. He made me believe you were the threat, that you always wanted what I had. I thought he loved me. I didn't know he was using me to get to you, to the hollow-born bloodline. Emma looked down at her hands that had held lightning, that had summoned fire and truth. He almost succeeded. Delilah's voice barely rose above a whisper. But you stopped him. You saved me, even after everything. You're still my sister, Emma said. Even when you broke me. Delilah's lip quivered. I'm so sorry, Em. I know. They sat in silence, the kind that hurt but also healed. That night Emma walked alone through the pinewood trail behind the cabin. The moon hadn't yet risen, but the forest pulsed with anticipation. She could feel it in her bones that something was coming. Then she heard it, a howl. But not Lucian's single quotes. It was deeper, harsher, a call she hadn't heard before. Suddenly, the air turned cold. Trees bent unnaturally. Shadows slithered across the ground. She turned and saw the silver-eyed wolf emerge, massive, snarling. Not Lucian. A rogue? No, a reaver. The enemy of her mother's coven. The very pack responsible for the massacre years ago. Emma's magic flared, gold sparks lighting her palms. The wolf shifted, and standing before her was a man gray-haired, heavily scarred, and impossibly familiar. You must be the Hollowborn, he rasped. Who are you? I am Aldrich, Alpha of the Reaver Pack, and I've come to offer you a choice. Emma tensed. What kind of choice? He stepped forward, unafraid of her power. Come with us. Join our bloodline. You were never meant to bond with Silverclaw. Your mother was promised to us. Your magic belongs to the old alliance. Emma's heart pounded. You're lying. You killed her. No, Aldrich said. Darius did. We were framed for the massacre, but it was Silverclaw who broke the pact. Your mother ran to them, and they betrayed her. The ground swayed beneath her. More betrayal, more hidden truths. I don't believe you, she said. Aldrich smiled. Then come with me. See the old coven's archives. Hear the truth from the spirits themselves. If I'm lying, you're free to destroy me. Emma hesitated. Why now? Because the hollow stone cracked. The balance is shifting. The moon will demand a new allegiance. If you don't choose your blood, the blood will choose for you. He shifted again and disappeared into the woods. Emma stood frozen. Full moon 3 nights. Laturth Ridge was quiet. Lucian stood alone beneath the silver moonlight, dressed in simple black, no armor, no symbols of rank. Just himself. He waited. Minutes passed. Then footsteps. He turned and Emma emerged from the woods. Lucian's breath caught. She wore a long dark coat, wind blowing through her hair. Power rippled beneath her skin like starlight trapped in flesh. You came, he said. She nodded slowly. I went to the Reaver camp. Lucian's face darkened. What? I needed answers, she said. About the bloodlines, the betrayal, everything. And they didn't lie about Darius, she said quietly. He made the first move, but the Reavers, they wanted control over witches, not peace. Lucian stepped closer. What do you believe? Emma lifted her gaze to his. I believe we have both inherited broken legacies, but we don't have to repeat them. Lucian looked down. I was ready to accept exile. The elders stripped me of my title. Emma's breath caught. You're not Alpha? He shook his head. Not officially, but the pack, they're divided. Some still follow me. Emma stepped into the moonlight, heart thundering. Then, maybe they need someone new. Lucian blinked. What do you mean? She reached out and touched his chest. The Hollowborn bloodline doesn't belong to any pack. But I do. He froze. I forgive you, she said, voice breaking. And if the moon still recognizes our bond. The moment she said it, light erupted around them. The moon flared. Magic surged between their bodies like a solar flare. Lucian's eyes widened. Emma, their hands clasped, and the mark of the faded bond burned into their skin to halves of a crescent moon, joined by a thread of silver flame. The soul bond had chosen. The moon had accepted them. Together, the mark on Emma's palm still glowed as she and Lucian stood beneath the moon, their hands interlocked, the silver thread of the soul bond etched deep into their skin. Neither spoke for several moments, both caught in the quiet aftermath of something ancient cosmic. Lucian was the first to move, brushing his fingers along her cheek with reverence. I didn't think you'd come, he said, voice husky with emotion. Emma met his gaze. I almost didn't, he nodded, the pain behind his eyes raw. Because of what my father did, because of what I didn't stop. She exhaled slowly, stepping closer until they were nearly chest to chest. Lucian, I know you carry the burden of your father's crimes, but they are not your own, and I think I always knew that. I just couldn't face it until I understood my own truth. Lucian's hands curled into fists. You went to the Reavers. That must have been dangerous. It was, she said, but necessary. I needed to see the whole picture. I needed to understand my mother, my blood, before I could understand us. He looked down at their joined hands, the bond pulsing with faint light. And what did you find? Emma paused, the wind brushing her hair over her shoulder. I found that the Reavers want control more than peace, that their alpha lied about everything but one thing. Your father did betray the original pact. But it was his fear, not his ambition, that caused the war. He feared witches. He feared me. Lucian looked away, jaw clenched. Then I'm a product of fear. No, she whispered. You're the product of someone who chose not to follow in his footsteps. That's what makes you different. That's why I came tonight. Lucian's breath hitched, something breaking in him. And your sister? He asked, almost reluctantly. She's back at the cabin, Emma said. Still grieving, still ashamed, but she's trying. He frowned. And what about the pack? You know they won't accept you. Not easily. She tilted her head. Then maybe they need a reason to change. He blinked at her. You want to help me rebuild the pack? Emma smiled softly. I want to help you rebuild everything, but we'll need more than moonlight and promises. Lucian's lips quirked, humor breaking through the intensity for a moment. You always did have a way of grounding me. Emma laughed, a quiet, broken sound, but real. Someone has to. But just as the moment softened, the wind shifted. The forest grew still again, but this time, it wasn't peace that followed. Lucian stiffened. They're coming. Emma turned. Who? The Reavers. His voice dropped. They didn't just come to talk. From the edge of the trees, shadows moved. A dozen figures emerged, cloaked in gray and black, their eyes gleaming with silver and hunger. At their center was Aldrich. I warned you, Hollowborn, Aldrich called. If you chose him, you'd forfeit your protection. Emma stepped forward, magic flaring in her blood. I don't need your protection. Aldrich's eyes narrowed. Then you'll need your power. Lucian moved beside her, shifting mid-step into his wolf form, a magnificent obsidian beast with golden eyes and snarling fangs. Emma didn't flinch. She summoned her magic, light crackling around her, golden fire swirling from her palms, humming with ancient resonance. Stand down, Aldrich, she said, voice amplified by the bond. Or be burned by what you awoke. But Aldrich wasn't afraid. He raised his hand and more shapes poured from the forest. Reavers. Dozens. Lucian growled. But Emma laid a hand on his fur. Wait. Aldrich stepped closer, smirking. This is not a negotiation. This is a purge. Emma closed her eyes, and then she spoke, not aloud, but through the bond, through the blood. Her voice echoed in the minds of every shifter present, Reaver, or otherwise. You call me Hollowborn as if it's a curse. But I am more than my bloodline. I am the balance your ancestors betrayed. I am the flame your darkness feared. And I will not let you take this world into shadow again. A shockwave erupted outward. The trees bent. The ground split. Several Reavers were thrown back, howling in pain. Aldrich staggered but didn't fall. Lucian leapt, teeth flashing, and tackled him. The others rushed forward, but Emma's fire formed, a ring blazing bright, holding the attackers at bay. Lucian and Aldrich rolled through dirt and stone, claws slashing, jaws snapping. Emma's magic held strong, but the strain built fast. Sweat beaded on her forehead, her vision blurred. She needed help. From the fire, another wolf burst through, silver-furred, familiar. Emma gasped. Delilah? The wolf growled and slammed into two Reavers trying to flank Emma. She fought like fury and guilt incarnate. From behind, more figures emerged. Not Reavers, Silverclaw wolves, some of Lucian's pack, those who still believed. They howled and charged into the fray. The battle exploded into chaos. Emma's fire dimmed just enough for her to fall to her knees, but Lucian was there, covered in blood, panting hard but alive. He pressed his forehead to hers. Don't burn yourself out. I'm okay, she lied. He smiled grimly. Then let's end this, together. They stepped into the chaos, magic and claw, flame and fang, rage and redemption. They fought as one. When the dust settled, Aldrich lay motionless. The remaining Reavers fled into the forest, their lines broken. Delilah shifted back into human form, panting, bruised. She knelt beside Emma, who collapsed from exhaustion. Lucian stood over them both, chest heaving, eyes fierce. The Silverclaw wolves looked to him. He looked to Emma, and for the first time in years, the pack knelt, not just to their former alpha, but to the woman beside him. Later that night, inside the ruins of the old den, Lucian sat beside Emma, who was wrapped in a warm cloak, her body still recovering from the magical surge. The night air was cool, crisp and quiet. I don't know what happens next, he said softly. Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. Neither do I. But maybe, that's the point. He glanced down at her. I always thought I had to choose between duty and desire, between truth and power. And now, he turned fully to her. Now I choose you. Whatever that means. Emma smiled, lifting his hand to her lips. Then we'll build a new truth. Together, their bond pulsed, and for the first time since their fates collided, it didn't feel like the end of something broken. It felt like the beginning of something whole. The wind carried a strange stillness across the forest, like the trees were holding their breath after the storm. The battle had ended hours ago, but its echoes lingered in bruises, in broken branches, in the haunted eyes of the survivors. Lucien sat beside Emma near the old den fire pit, the place now repurposed into something softer, safer. The surviving wolves from Silverclaw were scattered around the camp clearing, licking wounds, murmuring stories of the fight, and eyeing Emma with a mix of reverence and uncertainty. She noticed the glances but said nothing. Her magic still hummed low in her bones, but it was quieter now, less volatile. The soul bond mark on her hand had dimmed to a soft golden shimmer, no longer a flare, but a steady pulse, a promise. "Are you sure they're ready for this?" she asked, voice low. Lucien looked up from the fire. His eyes, usually so guarded, were bare tonight. "No," he said honestly, "but I'm sure I am. And that's enough to start." He stood, brushing soot from his jeans, and glanced around the clearing. Conversations died. Heads lifted. Emma watched, heart pounding, as he stepped into the center. Lucien raised his voice. "Silverclaw." The name alone stilled the air. He turned slowly, looking at each of them. "You followed me once. When my father died, you looked to me to lead, but I was too wrapped in fear and guilt to deserve it. I let others speak for me. I let duty bind me to someone I didn't love." Emma's throat tightened. Lucien's voice grew firmer. "I wronged both of them. My wife Delilah was my friend, not my mate, and I failed her by pretending otherwise. And Emma." He turned to her then, and in front of the entire pack dropped to one knee. Gasps rippled across the clearing. Emma froze. Lucien held her gaze. Emma Hollowborn, daughter of witches, survivor of betrayal, flame in the dark. "I rejected you once out of fear. I won't do it again." He reached for her hand. "I know what you are to me. I feel it every time you look at me, like I'm more than the mistakes I've made. I feel it in the way your magic doesn't burn me, it heals. It reminds me." She couldn't speak. The words caught in her chest like thorns. "I love you," he said simply. "And I'm not afraid anymore." She stared down at him, this fierce, broken, loyal man who had carried so many burdens and finally chose truth, and she didn't hesitate. Emma stepped into his arms, knees bending to meet him halfway, and pressed her forehead to his. "I love you too," she whispered. "Even when I hated you, I loved you." The moment hung between them like smoke and stars charged, quiet and perfect. Then Lucien kissed her. It wasn't urgent or desperate this time. It was steady, warm, the kind of kiss that builds a future instead of burying the past. A low howl broke the silence, then another, and another. Soon, the clearing was filled with the chorus of wolves howling, not in warning, but in witness. The bond between alpha and mate had been acknowledged. Emma's bond, their bond. Later that night, the watchtower hill, two of them sat beneath a blanket, legs tangled, the moon casting silver light across the clearing. "Are they going to accept me?" Emma asked softly. Lucien tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "They're already starting to. You fought beside them. You bled for them. That means more than bloodlines ever did." She traced lazy circles on his chest. "Even if I'm part witch?" He smiled. "Especially because you are. They need magic now more than ever. Not just to defend, but to rebuild." Emma rested her head on his shoulder. "And what about Delilah?" Lucien's jaw flexed. "She's going to need time, but she fought to protect you." "That says something." Emma closed her eyes. "She wasn't always cruel, just afraid, like us." Lucien nodded. "Fear makes monsters of all of us." Silence fell between them for a while, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Then Lucien shifted slightly, turning toward her. "There's something else," he said. "Something I need to ask before the next full moon." Emma looked up. "What?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small silver locket. Inside was a piece of crystal, humming softly with a warm golden glow. "It's from the Soul Spring Cavern," he said. "The witches used to bless unions with it. My mother, she gave it to me the day she died. Said I'd know when to give it to the right one." Emma's breath caught. Lucien opened the locket and held it out. "It's not a proposal, not yet, but it is a vow that no matter what happens next, politics, pack drama, Reaver threats, I choose you, now and always." Emma took it with trembling hands. The moment her fingers touched the crystal, It flared to life, glowing so brightly that even the stars above dimmed in comparison. Tears welled in her eyes. Then I vow the same. Lucian leaned in, brushing his lips against hers. You're mine. Emma kissed him back. And you're mine. The bond between them pulsed once more, only this time it wasn't just a thread of magic. It was love, raw, earned, undeniable. They sat on a fallen log together, saying nothing for a while. The birds sang above them. Wind moved through the trees like an old lullaby. Delilah finally broke the silence. You should know. I told Lucian he should pick you. Emma blinked. You? What? Delilah gave a dry smile. I wasn't blind. Even before the bond, I saw the way he looked at you. Like you were a secret he was scared to admit he loved. Emma lowered her gaze. I never meant to betray you. You didn't. Delilah sipped her tea. Fate's cruel, but it also makes sure the right people find each other, even if it burns everything else to ash in the process. Emma touched her sister's hand. You don't have to stay in the pack, Dee. You could leave, start over, be free. I don't want to leave. Delilah's voice was quiet. I've lived in the shadow of other people's choices for too long. It's time I made my own, and this pack needs me, even if they don't know it yet. Emma smiled. They'll see. They already are. They sat a while longer, to sisters, not rivals, not enemies, just blood and healing and peace. Later that day, the Highstone ceremony. The pack had gathered beneath the ancient Highstone, the jagged peak that overlooked the valley, where alphas gave oaths and fates were sealed in front of moon and blood. Lucian stood on the stone, tall and steady, his arm extended to Emma. She climbed the stairs in silence, dressed not in silk or ceremony, but in a tunic of deep green, the color of rebirth, with the sigil of silver claw stitched by hand over her heart. The moment she reached him, Lucian turned to the crowd. I call on the right of blood and bond, he said, voice resonant, to name my mate, my Luna, and the soul who will lead beside me. The pack howled in reply. Emma swallowed hard. The forest felt alive around her, the very earth humming with anticipation. I, Emma Lark, of no house and no bloodline, she said clearly, stand before you, not as one born to wolves, but one chosen by the moon. Gasps echoed, then silence. She turned to Lucian. I accept your bond, not because it's fated, but because I choose you, as you are, even when the world stands against us. Lucian took her hands, his eyes molten gold. Then let it be known, no more secrets, no more fear. From this day forward, we lead as one. He lifted her hand. The soul bond sigil shimmered between them, a golden thread of light connecting heart to heart, spirit to spirit. The pack howled. A single wolf stepped forward, Elder Madra, oldest of the bloodline. She placed a palm over both their hands. Then may the moon watch over you, and may the hollow and claw walk side by side. That night in the Alpha's cabin, the stars spilled across the sky like diamonds scattered on velvet. Lucian and Emma lay tangled in furs, firelight flickering over their skin, sweat drying on their bodies after their slow, whispered lovemaking. No more hiding, no more restraint, only truth, only them. You scared me, he murmured, tracing a line along her collarbone. During the battle, when you burned Kador to ash, Emma laughed softly. He deserved worse. Lucian smiled. You're not what I expected in a Luna. She looked up at him. Disappointed? Not even a little. He kissed her brow, then her lips. You're stronger than anyone I've ever known. You don't just carry pain, you turn it into power. Emma rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. I used to think I'd never belong anywhere, she said quietly. But maybe it's not about where you're from. Maybe it's about who holds your hand. When everything else falls apart. Lucian tightened his hold on her. Then I'll never let go. Outside, the forest whispered. Inside, two hearts beat as one. Elsewhere, a shadow stirs far from the Silverclaw lands. Beyond the scorched valleys and old bloodlines, a figure stood before a broken mirror. His eyes were the color of storm clouds. His cloak shimmered with moon dust and ash. He ran a finger along the mirror's surface, watching a flicker of Emma's image appear, her soul blazing bright. A hollow-born, he whispered, and soul forged. Behind him, others waited, quiet, waiting. The prophecy was wrong, he muttered. Or perhaps, it's only just beginning. Then he turned, and the shadows moved with him. 3 full moons had passed since the day Emma and Lucian were bonded under the Highstone. In that time, the Silverclaw pack began to rebuild not just their homes, but their hearts. Old grudges faded, New alliances bloomed. For the first time in decades, the land itself felt quiet, alive, forgiving. The scars of war remained, yes, but they were no longer wounds. They were lessons, proof of survival. Emma stood barefoot in the high meadow just outside the Alpha's cabin, watching the golden twilight fade behind the pines. A soft breeze lifted her dark hair, carrying the scent of lavender and ash. Behind her, Lucian approached silently, as always. But she felt him before she heard him, like a part of her soul waking up. His arms wrapped around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder. "We have peace," he murmured. "But you still look like you're waiting for something." Emma tilted her head against him. "Not waiting, just listening." "To what?" She smiled faintly. "The quiet. It used to scare me. Now, it feels like freedom." Lucian kissed her temple. "You made this possible, Emma. You led them when I couldn't. You healed what I was too afraid to face." "I didn't do it alone." "No," he whispered. "You did it with me. That's what a mate is, not a crutch. A flame beside your own." They stood together in the silence, watching as the first star blinked to life in the sky. Later that night, the pack fire gathering fire crackled in the heart of the Silver Claw clearing. Children danced with sparklers made of moonroot dust. Elders sat in carved stone seats, wine and stories spilling like rivers. Wolves ran between the trees, silver and sable, laughing in both form and voice. Emma and Lucian sat side by side, hands entwined, watching their people breathe again. Delilah approached with a small smile, her usual leather and steel traded for a simple dress and a braid threaded with feathers. "You look like you've finally exhaled," Emma said gently. "I think I have," Delilah replied. "I'm not Alpha. I'm not Luna. I'm not a prophecy. But I am whole." Emma stood and embraced her. "That's more than enough." A howl rose in the distance, not of warning, but of celebration. Lucian turned his face skyward, eyes glinting gold. "The moon is high," he said. "It's time." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Time for what?" Lucian grinned. "For you to run, as you are, as Luna." She hesitated, laughing softly. "I haven't shifted in weeks. I might trip over my own." Pause. "You won't. The forest remembers you." The pack began to shift, one by one, first sprouting, bones reshaping, howls blending into a wild, wordless song. Lucian offered his hand. "Run with me." She took it without hesitation. The shift, it came easily this time, not painful, not terrifying. Her body remembered the shape of the wolf, the freedom of the shift, and when Emma opened her eyes again, the world was cast in silver and sound. Every leaf, every heartbeat, every breeze alive. She ran beside Lucian, paws thundering against the earth, the pack behind them, howling in harmony. She didn't feel human. She didn't feel broken. She felt whole. The morning after, they lay tangled in fur blankets near the ashes of the fire, watching the sun crest over the mountains. Emma turned on her side, tracing a faint mark on Lucian's chest, the soul bond still faintly glowing beneath his skin. "We were never meant to be," she said softly. "Not logically, not in any human sense." Lucian looked at her. "But the moon chose anyway." Emma nodded. "And I choose too, every day. I choose you." He kissed her slowly. "Then whatever comes next, we face it together." Epilogue. 1 month later, a letter arrived from the Northern Territories, wax sealed in midnight blue. Emma read it aloud to Lucian. "To Alpha Lucian and Luna Emma of Silverclaw, our seers have detected a rise in hollow-born energy far beyond your borders. A darkness that matches the one your Luna banished. We believe the soul flame she carries may be the only weapon against what is coming. Prepare your pack. The veil between worlds is thinning." Emma's hands trembled slightly as she folded the parchment. Lucian's voice was calm but resolute. "Do you regret bonding to me?" She looked at him, fierce and certain. "Never." Then she stood, stepping into the doorway of the cabin, the dawn casting her in firelight. "Let them come," she said, because she was no longer just a girl who ran from pain. She was Luna of the Silverclaw. She was hollow-born. She was loved. And she was ready.